West of the Misty Mountains lie the remains of Ost-in-Edhil, the ancient elven capital. Today, a graveyard of choked white marble and creeping weeds. Thousands of years ago, this was the crown jewel of Eregion, ruled by Celebrimbor and the Gwaitha Myrdain, an elite brotherhood of elven smiths driven by an intense, almost dwarven obsession with absolute metallurgical perfection. Their ultimate goal was to artificially halt the decay of time in Middle-earth. They wanted to replicate the eternal, unchanging grace of Valinor, the blessed, immortal realm across the Western Sea where the gods resided. That intense desire to preserve beauty became a strict operating principle for their society. By focusing entirely on stopping the natural decay of the world, the Smiths left themselves exposed to anyone offering a technological shortcut. Conventional siege weapons did not reduce this city to rubble. The shattered stones we see here are the direct forensic footprint of a perfectly executed psychological deception. The architect of that deception arrived in Eregion claiming to be an emissary of the gods. Sauron infiltrated the elven forges under the disguise of Annatar, a name that translates to the Lord of Gifts. Annatar provided the exact piece of technology the elves were missing. He taught them the specific binding magic required to forge rings of power, a leap in engineering they could not have achieved on their own. This schematic illustrates the new ring crafting formula. Look closely at the magical binding notes. Celebrimbor unknowingly forged a fatal vulnerability. Instead of the wearer maintaining autonomy, connection pathways routed control outward to a singular external receiver. The Smiths had built masterpieces of preservation, but because of that injected subroutine, their absolute brilliance was weaponized against them by a single malicious intelligence. The rings produced from this compromised formula were distributed among the rulers of Middle-earth. 9 were given to mortal men. The magic granted these human kings immense wealth and dramatically extended their lifespans. But the mortal mind degrades under that specific magical load, and the 9 eventually warped into invisible, enslaved wraiths. 7 similar rings were gifted to the dwarf lords, hidden deep within their mountain strongholds. Sauron expected the dwarves to fall to the exact same wraith-like enslavement. However, their unique biological and psychological resilience blocked the subroutine from overriding their free will. The rings still operated on their minds, but the effect manifested entirely as an uncontrollable, obsessive greed for gold. That hoarding behavior drew the attention of massive beasts, leading to the incineration of several dwarven kingdoms by dragonfire. Then there were the 3. Celebrimbor forged Vilya, Narya, and Nenya, the rings of air, fire, and water, entirely in secret, without Sauron's direct physical involvement. Unlike the rings given to men and dwarfs, the 3 pristine silver rings were engineered strictly to heal, protect, and preserve the physical environments of the elven domains. Because Sauron never touched them, the elves assumed they were safe, but Celebrimbor had still built the 3 using the exact same underlying binding magic taught by Annatar. By distributing these specific artifacts, Sauron laid out a tailored psychological trap. It hijacked the ambition of men, the greed of dwarves, and the preservation of the elves, preparing the entire continent for total subjugation. To activate that trap, Sauron needed a way to process and dominate the dispersed magical pathways of the lesser rings. Deep inside the volcanic core of Mount Doom, he engineered the ultimate master control device. He forged the One Ring. A network is only as strong as its central server. To make the One Ring powerful enough to dominate the minds of the other ring-bearers, Sauron had to pour a massive volume of his own raw malice and personal life force directly into the gold. The moment he placed the One Ring on his finger, the network went live. The elves instantly felt his presence in their minds, realized the scope of the deception, and frantically pulled the rings from their hands. Sauron retaliated with absolute violence. His armies marched on Eregion, slaughtered the populace, reclaimed the lesser rings, and tortured Celebrimbor to death. The Elves of Eregion dedicated their lives to halting the decay of time. In a tragic irony, the very instruments they engineered to preserve beauty
ensured their city would remain a dead, frozen ruin forever.